With a deep breath, she pushed open the door and stepped inside, the tapestry swaying gently behind her, sealing her fate within the manor's grasp. The hidden chamber was cold and damp, the air thick with the scent of mildew and decay. A single flickering lantern cast long dancing shadows on the stone walls, revealing an array of arcane symbols and cryptic diagrams. At the center of the chamber stood an easel, upon which rested the very painting that had led Evelyn to Ashwood Manor. As she stepped closer, drawn by an unseen force, the canvas seemed to pulsate with an unnatural energy. The air crackled with static, and a low hum vibrated through the room, resonating deep within her bones. The painted image rippled and swirled, the desolate manor morphing and twisting, the vacant windows transforming into watchful eyes. Evelyn reached out, her fingers brushing against the cold, unforgiving surface. A jolt of energy surged through her, images flooding her mind, visions of the manor's past, of the people who had lived and died within its walls. She saw their hopes, their dreams, their darkest desires, all consumed by the manor's insatiable hunger. Panic surged through her as she realized the truth. The painting was not merely a depiction of Ashwood Manor, it was a conduit, a portal, a living embodiment of the manor's sinister essence. She had been drawn here not by chance but by design, a pawn in a game far older and more terrifying than she could have imagined. The lines between the painting and her world began to blur, reality and art merging into one.
Section 7. A canvas alive! With a gasp, Evelyn stumbled backward, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a scream. The canvas before her rippled and pulsed, the once static image now a swirling vortex of color and shadow. The air crackled with an unseen energy, a low hum vibrating through the room, echoing the frantic beat of her heart. The painted figures within the canvas stirred, their previously vacant eyes snapping open, locking onto Evelyn with chilling intensity. Their lips moved, forming silent words that seemed to claw at her mind, their voices a chorus of whispers, pleas, and desperate cries. The desolate manor in the painting deepened, its once faded colors now vibrant and alive, its shadows stretching out towards her like grasping claws. Terror lent speed to her steps as she stumbled back, desperate to escape the chamber's suffocating confines. But the room seemed to warp and twist around her, the walls closing in, the air growing thin and cold. The scent of decay intensified, a suffocating aroma of death and despair. The boundary between reality and the painted realm blurred, the chamber itself seeming to melt and reform, becoming an extension of the canvas. Evelyn was no longer an observer, but a participant drawn into the horrifying narrative unfolding before her. Section 8. Trapped in the palette. Panic seized Evelyn. The room spun, the boundaries between the chamber and the canvas dissolving, the air, thick and heavy, tasted of oil paints and turpentine. Beneath her trembling fingers, the once solid floor morphed into a canvas textured with rough brush strokes. Her scream died in her throat, a choked gasp as her world tilted. She fell, tumbling through a swirling vortex of colors and shadows, the frantic beat of her heart a drum against her ribs. Around her, the painted figures from the portraits swirled and danced, their forms elongated and grotesque, their eyes burning with a malevolent light. She landed with a jarring thud on a cold, hard surface. Disoriented and gasping for breath, she pushed herself up, her gaze frantically searching for an escape, but there was none. She was trapped, imprisoned within the very fabric of the painting, the once familiar world of Ashwood Manor, replaced with a nightmarish landscape of twisted trees and a sky awash with swirling crimson clouds. Despair washed over her in icy waves. She was a prisoner within her own worst nightmare, the line between reality and artistic representation irrevocably blurred. The manor had claimed her, just as it had claimed countless souls before, their essence now woven into its haunted tapestry. As Section 9, A Portrait's Gaze. With a shuddering breath, Evelyn pushed herself to her feet. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, and the silence was broken only by the sound of her own ragged breaths. The once familiar landscape of the painting was now a grotesque mockery of reality. The trees twisted and gnarled, their branches reaching out towards her like skeletal fingers. She moved through the macabre landscape, her every step driven by a desperate need for answers.
The figures from the portraits, now freed from their painted confines, watched her through the twisted trees, their eyes burning with a cold, malevolent light. Their whispers followed her, a chorus of despair and madness that gnawed at the edges of her sanity. As she stumbled through the undergrowth, she came to a clearing. In the center stood a single easel upon which rested a blank canvas. As she approached, drawn by an unseen force, she saw her own reflection staring back at her from the canvas. But it was not her own reflection. Her features were slowly morphing, her eyes shifting from their familiar hazel to a haunting emerald green, her lips curving into a sad, knowing smile. She was becoming the woman from the portrait, her identity subsumed by the painting's sinister power. Evelyn knew she had to confront the haunting gaze to uncover the truth. Section 10. The final brushstroke. Panic surged through Evelyn, a desperate struggle against the inevitable. She clawed at her face, trying to tear away the transformation, but it was no use. Her fingers met only smooth canvas, the brushstrokes of her own demise solidifying beneath her touch. The emerald eyes in the reflection stared back, filled with a chilling acceptance, a knowing glint that spoke of countless souls, consumed by the painting's power. She was not the first, and she would not be the last. The manor, with its insatiable appetite, demanded a piece of every soul that dared to enter its domain. Her screams echoed through the painted landscape, swallowed by the swirling crimson sky. The figures from the portraits gathered around her, their grotesque forms looming over her, their eyes gleaming with a mixture of triumph and a chilling, hollow sorrow. They had been where she stood, their own identities erased, their souls forever bound to the canvas. As the final brushstroke fell, sealing her fate, a single tear escaped the emerald gaze of the woman in the painting. It was a tear of sorrow, of regret, of the endless torment that awaited those who were consumed by the manor's power. The painting was complete, another soul claimed, its hunger momentarily sated. But in the depths of Ashwood Manor, the canvas remained, revealing its true nature, poised to capture another unsuspecting soul in its terrifying embrace.